Hello, future people. Welcome to Getting Tabled. I'm Jason the Bruce, and welcome to a new episode of Comparing Wargaming Unfairly. Today, we're going to have a look at an action figure. So, for those of you that are watching this video because I teased it in the local Transformers collectors group, hey, it's finally here. For the rest of you, what on earth are you doing? Comparing Wargaming Unfairly is a series I started, and a rather silly series I started, for a couple of different reasons. The one I've mentioned previously has been the whole people expecting you to explain your hobby because they don't understand it for whatever reason, and that is okay, because you don't have to explain your hobby. You are allowed to enjoy yourself. I mean, there are other reasons why people may be asking that question, but generally speaking, you shouldn't have to justify your hobby to anyone. The other thing is that quite frequently, people within the hobby start questioning why things cost so much, or why things are priced the way that they are. And people within the hobby tend to have a habit of thinking about what prices were like 20 years ago and trying to pretend like that should still be the norm. It's not anywhere else. It's not just us. And unfortunately, prices going up is a fact of life. You used to joke about your parents having this conversation. And you know it. Sorry to interrupt the video, but I want to tell you about the competition that we're running through our Patreon. For every month of support you give our Patreon, from now until April 2023, you will receive one entry into the competition that we're running to win a Shaltari fleet for Drop Fleet Commander. That includes a Shaltari Dreadnought, a Shaltari starter set, a Shaltari frigates box, and a Shaltari cruisers box. All of this will be sent to one winner. This winner will be drawn at random on our 4th anniversary, which is recorded at the beginning of April. For us to be allowed to send this to you, you need to fit 2 categories. You must be living in a country where it's legal for me to post you something from Australia. You also must be living in a country where it is legal to win competitions. If you do not live in a country that meets these criteria, then I do apologise. There's nothing that I'll be able to do, and I will be forced to redraw it. Please consider supporting us. We'd really appreciate it. All of this was purchased with my own money. No. All right, first things first, let's have a look at this box. Now, this is a huge box. A lot of this camera work is going to have to be done by hand, because, quite frankly, it's too big for my camera arm that I would normally use to actually be any use. This is a re-release. It's a repaint, something that we are not entirely unexpected in our hobby. We do get reboxes of certain things quite regularly. It's also very prevalent in the hobby, in the toy community as well. This thing looks absolutely amazing. This is a series of action figures that when I knew it was coming, I had to have them. To the point where the store I will not name is one that I swore I wouldn't buy from again. It's got nothing to do with the brand of this toy. NECA are amazing. But I've had mixed experiences with the shop in question. First things first, this is a huge box. Just to give you an idea, comparing it with my hand. So this is all going to be filmed by hand because, quite frankly, it's too large for my camera arm that I would normally use to actually be helpful in this case. Just to give you an idea of how large this thing is, it's really, really nice. There you get a picture of him with Robocop as well. Really lovely detail on the box. I love the fact that we've got the OCP logo here from the movie. That just makes it for me. The moment I knew that these models were coming out, I knew I had to have them because I'm a huge fan of these movies. Yes, I said movies. Obviously, the original is the best, but I don't hate the sequels. I honestly don't. Open the box. You have 5 seconds to comply. So, first things first, packaging in action figures does tend to be much better than we are used to. At most, we will usually get a little bit of foam. But at the same time, that's because most of our stuff comes flat packed, essentially. We don't really need any of this in Wargaming because everything gets built. If we were receiving our action figures, if we were receiving our miniatures completed, we may need this. I mean, there are board games and so forth where you'll get things like this, but as far as Wargaming is concerned, this, generally speaking, is not something we need to be concerned about. All right, and this is him once he's out of the box. So, here's where the actual comparison is going to start becoming important. So, if you're comparing Wargaming with toys, the first thing people usually think of is the fact that toys already come painted. They already come built. Why would you spend $100 on a kit that you have to build when you could buy this for essentially the same money? For the record, this was 150 Australian dollars. This thing is also articulated, where obviously none of the things that we buy are. Now, NECA toys are limited in their articulation. They tend to put their money elsewhere. So, this is the way that the action figure looks. This is obviously a lot simpler than what most wargamers would be doing with their actual miniatures, but at the same time, I haven't had to do anything with this. Also, another fair piece of comparison is there are actually collectors of toys out there that will have their toys customized. Some of them will actually go through and panel line all of this. Some of them will go through and do insane cell shading things, like I've tried to do with my infestors for Bot War. Now, this thing also has some audio stuff in it. Trying to remember where the button is. Aha. All right. I don't know how clearly this is going to come up. So, ultimately, like I said, this is not a fair comparison. They are completely different markets. But there is some things that's worth noting here. Now, obviously, yes, this thing actually comes pre-built. Apparently, I also can't pose it properly. There we go, that's better. But at the same time, like, the detail on this, while it is very nice, really doesn't compare with the quality of the stuff that we get in our hobby at this stage. I mean, it's certainly not bad, and I'm not saying that it's bad. I mean, it's also replicating something from a movie. This is probably the most detailed that we get. Whereas something in our hobby, we would have a lot more detail in this, generally speaking. Don't get me wrong, this is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I'm very, very happy that I have it. But detail-wise, it's just not even close. So articulation-wise, these will move in and out. They will also move up and down because they will rotate. These also turn as well. I don't believe... Nope, that's all fixed. I've already shown you these. This actually extends as well. On the foot, this is all solid. There's pretty much no movement in there at all. It does move a little bit, but not much. So like I said, this is, as far as action figures is concerned, very limited in its scope. But if you're a fan of the Robocop movies, which I certainly am, Robocop, personally, is probably one of my favorite franchises of all time. If you haven't seen the original Robocop, you're doing yourself a disservice. It's very 80s, but the ironic thing is that it's probably even more relevant today than what it was when it came out. You've made it through to the end of another video. Your next mission is to hit subscribe and comment down below. If you'd like to reach out to the team, consider doing that, gettingtabled@gmail.com. Consider subscribing to our Patreon. For only $2 a month, you get early access to almost every single video that we do. Our most active social media is facebook.com/gettingtabled. It's where you'll find everything first. There's also a Discord. There's an invite on screen right now. If you type that in, it'll give you instant access. If you're on Twitter or Instagram, you can find us at gettingtabled. It's not the most active, but it's something we're trying to use more all the time. Come and check out Jason the Bruce at Twitch. He does both video game and hobby content. And of course, without question, play more games.